Okay, so we're about to dive into a 350-year-old epic poem. But stick with me here, because John Milton's Paradise Lost is really about the hardest part of being human, making the right choice when it's just so much easier to make the wrong one. We're not going to treat this like some dense piece of literature. Think of it more like a timeless user manual for our own choices, our pride, and maybe most importantly, our ability to bounce back.
I mean, yeah, who hasn't? You know that feeling, right? Watching yourself make a mistake and slow motion. It's a universal human thing. And that exact feeling, that's the core conflict that drives this entire story. And it's just as real for us today as it was back in the 17th century.
And get this, it's not just a feeling. In surveys, over 80% of people admit to doing things they know go against their own best judgment. So this isn't some rare personal failure. It is fundamental to the human condition. It's so common, in fact, there's a word for it. And that's exactly why, for this explainer, we're looking at Paradise Lost as a kind of instruction guide for our own choices. This is less about theology and way more about the psychology of how we mess up. And, crucially, how we can learn to get back on our feet. The ancient Greeks called it akrasia. It's that state of knowing exactly what you should do, but you do the opposite anyway. It's that constant battle between your rational brain and your immediate desires. And Milton, well, he basically wrote the playbook on it. The poem's plot is so much more than just one story. It's like a blueprint for any major fall from grace, whether you're talking about a huge corporate scandal or just a personal mistake you really, really regret. The pattern is always kind of the same. So, the whole arc kicks off with Satan's rebellion in heaven, which, spoiler alert, leads to his epic fall into hell. From there, he slogs through this formless void called chaos just to get to a brand new world, Earth. He finds Eden, tempts Eve, who then convinces Adam. They eat the fruit, and bam, that triggers the fall of man. This gets them exiled from paradise. But, and this is a huge but, even after all of that, there's still a glimmer of hope. Now let's talk about the characters, because they're not just figures in a story, they're basically mirrors of our own internal struggles. You know, the different voices arguing in your head when you're trying to make a tough call. First up, Satan. He's that charismatic, resentful voice inside all of us, the part that feels wronged, that sees any limit as a personal insult, and whispers that we absolutely deserve more. He is the undisputed master of telling us exactly what we want to hear. Then there's Eve. She represents our natural curiosity, that powerful drive to grow and be our own person. She isn't naive, not at all. She's smart. She's ambitious. Her mistake is just letting that curiosity run wild, without the guardrails of wisdom. And finally, Adam. He's all about our capacity for deep love and loyalty. But here's the thing, that very strength becomes his biggest weakness when it isn't guided by his principles. He knows eating the fruit is wrong, but he does it anyway to stay with Eve. It's a perfect picture of what happens when love isn't balanced with wisdom. Okay, so if those are the players, what's the game? Well, Milton gives us a surprisingly predictable 5-stage playbook for how temptation really works. And understanding this process is the first step to stopping it in its tracks in our own lives. You can think of it as a kind of temptation funnel, and it's a pattern you'll see again and again. It starts with flattery, making us feel special and puffing up our pride. That opens the door for doubt, where we start to question the rules. Then comes the most critical step, reframing. This is where the bad choice gets a makeover and is presented as something brave or independent. After that, we look for permission, telling ourselves things like, well, everyone else is doing it. And finally, after the choice is made, rationalization kicks in to tell us why it was the right thing to do all along. And you can actually see this focus in the poem's structure. Look at the line counts for each book. Book 9, The Actual Fall, is huge, one of the longest. But just look at how much time is spent in the early books, where Satan is setting up his whole argument. And then look at the end. The entire final book is dedicated to hope. What does that tell you? Milton wasn't just obsessed with the failure, he was obsessed with the setup, and even more, the recovery. So it all comes down to this. The engine that drives this whole machine of temptation is pride. And Milton has this brilliant definition for it. It's not confidence, it's that subtle, poisonous habit of seeing any limit, any boundary at all, as a personal insult. It's the lie we tell ourselves that we are owed more than we actually have. But look, this isn't just a story about how we fall. It's about how we get back up, The whole second half of Paradise Lost is basically a roadmap for recovery. It's full of real, actionable advice on how to build resilience after we've made a choice we regret. So here's the practical advice. Number 1, pre-commit. Make your big decisions when you're calm and your head is clear, not in the heat of the moment. 2, name your serpent. Get really honest about the specific lie you tend to fall for when you're tempted. 3, choose humility. Pride just boxes you in, but humility opens you up to help and new possibilities. 4, make sure your love is guided by wisdom. Loyalty is great, but not if it makes you abandon what you know is right. And finally, number 5, just remember that recovery is the entire point. The story doesn't end with the fall, it's all about finding the path back.
You know, one of the most famous lines in the whole poem is actually spoken by Satan. He says, "The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven." Now, he says it as a boast, but he's stumbled onto this profound truth about our freedom. Our mind, our internal world, it's ours to control.
And really, that's the ultimate question Milton leaves us with. We have free will. We have this incredible power to shape our own reality. So the only question that matters is, what will you make of yours?